What's up, good people, and welcome back to another Morning Money Motivation. And today we are going to talk about the topic of quitting work. Should you quit working? Should you not quit working? This has been talked about a lot lately. I've heard, boomers talk about it, and I've heard more millennials and younger generations talk about this. And, both sides have different perspectives. So I want to talk about my perspective because I do fall kind of in the middle of those two perspectives in terms of generational understanding and what I've actually seen in my lifetime. And I think that has a great deal to do with your or anybody's observation of what's happening and kind of how they feel about what's happening. Your generational perspective plays a huge role in this because it gives you an insight based upon what you're actually experiencing or what you've experienced in your lifetime. To put it in perspective, like on one end, you have, say, a boomer or boomers who have, come from working environments where work was very important. It was a very important part of, the livelihood and the growth of your family unit and your communities and all of these things. Having jobs and all of that was very tied to, your economic status in the world and just your, existence in terms of, where you fall in the world really had a lot to do with, or has a lot to do with the kind of job or the kind of ways that you bring in income. And not just there, too, from a just understanding of the physicality of working. There is a long history of that in terms of America and in terms of the world, when it comes to older generations, who built a lot of things. There's a lot of building that is associated with older generations, physically building things and just philosophically building things. So that is the understanding in my perspective. That is the understanding of, hey, why work is a valued thing, and why right now I think older generations may be feeling like, what are you talking about? You don't want to work, or you don't want to go back to work at this job that I've built for you. Which is the way, the younger generation is kind of look at it, to flip the coin. A younger generation or, a millennial or younger generation is looking at it from this perspective of, no, that's what you built and that's not what I want for me. I want to build something for me and create something that I don't have to work for you and toil inside of your system to live the life and live the lifestyle that I want. So you have those two different things that are at play. But I think the hard thing is that because there is such a divide in the times, that some of the things that one generation may understand or have seen is not translating well to the generation that comes after. Prime example, you have the Industrial Revolution versus the information age. So yes, the Industrial Revolution may be hinged on a lot of physicality, whereas the information age is hinged on a lot of, thinking and thought and how things manifest based on what you're thinking and what you're able to educate yourself about. I think those two different paradigms are different paradigms, and I think it's very interesting how you can be a part of those things and really lose sight of the core basic foundation of life. And I know I've talked about this in another video, or talked about this in another session, where basic foundations of life basically state that you have to take action to survive. You have to be able to, get the things that you need to survive, whether that be food, water, shelter, XYZ, right? I think civilization, or what we've created, dictates how those things are kind of issued out, and we, for the most part, we have gathered those things based on exchanging them for currency or money, and we get that currency or money through exchanging the time that we give to a job or whatever. So just on the basic level, I think that is what is at stake right now. I think the understanding of how we get the things we need in exchange for what we're offering, which is our time or money, that is what is being changed, or what is being discussed right now. And I think a lot of people, especially younger generations, because they haven't had to, go through years and years of building and working, I think their perspective is, hey, I don't want to do that. I see an alternative route to, getting to the things that I need and want. And I think that's largely because, we're living in an age where you can gain the monetary things that you need through, non-physical labor, through trading your time in excess for money. Like, you don't need to work as long if you are educated in certain things, in certain processes, because those things have more value now. And I think that is the one thing that I want to talk about, that I think the younger generations need to understand, though, is that those things have more value now. It's not necessarily going to be forever. And what you really have to understand is that what is eternal and what is forever is that very basic, hey, if you don't work, you don't eat. Somebody's got to do the work. All these things have to be done. Yes, we're creating, smarter and quote unquote better systems of doing things, in terms of, creating food and creating transportation, all these things that are being created, from, a better understanding of technology. You still have to understand that at the core of that, something or someone is paying with time, with effort. Something or someone is paying with time or effort at some point. And yes, you are not a slave to those things, and don't have to be a slave to those things, or, even give up your time in a way that makes you feel like a slave to those things anymore, in that capacity, versus, someone when, industries were built off of more labor oriented jobs. Let's just go back 20 years, built off of more labor oriented jobs and warehouses and things like that. Yes, those things are being automated and changed in a lot of ways, but at the core, there's still effort that needs to be, taking place, and someone has to do the work, and someone has to be willing to say, hey, we can philosophize and think about things all day long that get us out of working. We can do that. We can create these systems, create these ways of doing things where we push that off on someone else, and we have to give something up in exchange for it, though. There's something that we're giving away, and I think that is what's not being talked about, and that's what's not being recognized, is that yes, you're giving up something in that exchange for that comfort, or for, being able to not have to trade your time for money. You're also giving up something, or you're causing something else to happen. There's always a cause and effect at play when you're dealing with most anything. So, having said all of that, the question is, should you quit working? In my opinion, it depends on the person. I think, if you are a person that is being fulfilled in what you are doing, and that is working, and you are, you're able to take care of yourself with your financial situation. You're able to take care of your financial situation, all aspects of your life, really, through whatever you're working at, and you're fulfilled in that, then keep doing it. It's what fulfills you. And you should not be swayed by any, group or anybody else's decision to do something differently just because they may be feeling, something else, or, having some other epiphany in their life, because you don't know their situation. You don't know other people's situation. And even if you do know someone else's situation, that doesn't mean that that applies to you. Now, on the other hand, if you are awakening to the possibility of doing something else, something greater, something that is more purpose oriented for you and in your life, and you see a path to that, and that path does not involve working, then definitely quit. Do something else. Do something that is more fulfilling for you. That is your right. That is your decision to make. What I don't want people to fall into is being the victim of mass movement in a direction that is not beneficial for them or beneficial for you. That is just as dangerous as doing the same thing over and over and over again that is not fulfilling. Because everything is not for you. Every decision that someone else makes and makes important, or creates a mass hysteria about, is not for you. You have to understand your own place in those things. Yes, we are living in a time of great flux where things are changing rapidly, and in my opinion, that's a good thing. I think it allows us or gives us perspective. And if you are thinking, if you are in the right frame of mind, which I hope you are, you can make great decisions in a time of flux. It allows you to enact those decisions without ridicule, without judgment, because everybody's in that place. There's nothing greater than being in a place where everybody is feeling something that everybody's feeling like something needs to happen. There's nothing greater than that, because then you can make things happen and not feel like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. No, it's a decision, and you can be comfortable and accept the consequences of your decisions. And if they're good, keep moving in it. If it's not good, do something else. There's one thing that I learned early in life, and that is, in a society where we have jobs and things like that, or mechanisms to get us the things that we need and want through time, effort, money, what have you, you use those things to your advantage. If it's a time to work, use that time to work and build what you need to build to do the other things that you want to do. If it's a time to invest, then let that be the time to invest. But you need to understand the importance of all those things and how they play in together. Don't just look at one and say, oh, I want to be here at point Z, and I don't want to do A through F or A through whatever. You can't look at things that way, because if you do that, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose, and you're going to be back at square A. I've experienced it in my life. I've seen other people experience it. It's just the way life works. And I think it's a tragedy that a lot of times, younger generations, or when you're young, you're being taught that that's not the case, or you're being led down a path of, no, you can do whatever you want to do all the time in every situation. And it's just not true. It's not plausible. It's not even something, once you do that, it's not even something that is enriching and fulfilling for you, let alone for anyone else. You can't always have everything you want every second of the day. Now, I do believe there is a time to stop and reflect and pivot. Those things are very important for the growth of you. And I think this is one of those times. We have to stop, we have to reflect, and we have to pivot. So if that means to quit working for some, to position themselves to be a better person long term, I say bring it on. I welcome that. But always be prepared for the consequences for your actions. I hope this was helpful for someone. And until next time, I wish you health, wealth, and freedom.